did everything, and the crowd really helped today. The noise is incredible. I've never dedicated a win before, but this one is for my wife, without whom I wouldn't be here.
Yes, Britain's Chris Boardman wearing the yellow jersey on day one, the official first stage of the 1998 Tour de France, after his great win in the prologue around the streets of Dublin yesterday. Now today's stage is a much tougher one, 180.5 kilometres down through Wicklow, and the Wicklow Gap, the tough area really, back through Blessington, finishing in the Phoenix Park. Now, many people expect that we will have a bunch sprint finish, despite that rather rough time they'll have in the Wicklow Gap, and that could mean, of course, that Chris Boardman will keep his yellow jersey after today's stage. Before the stage began down O'Connell Street, Ryan Nugent got the views of many experts.
I don't think he will. I think there's going to be a big bunch finish in the Phoenix Park this afternoon, and actually could be his teammate Frédéric Moncassin who could take over the lead with the time bonuses. Other than him, there's another Frenchman, Laurent Jalabert, who's only 5 seconds back, and with bonuses of 20 seconds and 12 seconds, I think either of those two. Also Cipollini, if he can get over Wicklow Gap.
I think it's fairly set up for Cipollini. The only thing is this wind that's here. I mean, if it's really strong in the mountains, the wind that could split the field, and it might not be so easy for Cipollini. Today's stage sees the race go down through Dundrum, down the east coast to Arklow, and then back up through the mountains through Lara, Rathdrum and into Lara, over the Wicklow Gap, which should be very difficult because there's quite a wind out, and then they drop down to Hollywood. It's quite a rolly road between the Wicklow Gap and Hollywood. From there into Blessington, drop down to the city, and through Tala, Temple Oak, Walkinstown, Inchicore, and into the Phoenix Park. One lap of the Phoenix Park to finish, and finishes on the main road of the park.
I'd say it's going to be difficult today. I'd say if you put a camera out on the Wicklow Gap, which I'm sure you have, I'd say it's seen very few guys going over it smiling. With the wind that's out there at the moment now as well, it's going to be a crosswind, I'd say, going over the gap, which will make it difficult and should also split the group up again, I'd say. But with it being a long kind of flattish run in then from Blessington, it should come together again. But riders are very, very nervous this time of the race, because the race hasn't taken a pattern yet. So if somebody takes the race in hand and says, okay, we're going to run with this, we're going to hold the jersey for 2 days, 3 days, we're going to defend it, anything can happen really, and everybody's afraid this particular moment.
I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very unpleasant, dangerous and painful, but this is the job, and afterwards it's always good, but to do it, it's going to be a hard day. Obviously it makes it a lot better wearing this jersey. It gives me a lot of motivation to be at the front. It's given me a little bit more self-confidence, but I know the Tour de France quite well now, and today is going to be very hectic.
The first days of the Tour de France are the ones when every rider in the field thinks that he's got a chance of getting the yellow jersey. They'll all be looking for a breakaway, and with these conditions that we have today, the wind, the little roads out there on the Wicklow County, it's going to make it very tough, and I think we could see a breakaway going clear.
When you've got the jersey, it's generally your team at the front making the trouble for everybody else, so it's put the whole team in a good position. It means they've got a reason to be at the front. There's a certain respect for this jersey, no matter who's wearing it, so it means that it's a lot easier for them to ride at the front, because there's nearly 200 guys here on very, very small roads sometimes, and there's only 20 places at the front, and they're all very, very motivated and very good at what they do, so to have that little passport, if you like, to be at the front makes a big difference.
Un bon petit déjeuner. C'est quoi ça là?
Whole day 2 of the Tour de France, and a big day for Stephen Roach in that it's starting in his home village of Dundrum.
Well, just to give you a little bit of example, I brought Stephen home last night. I was travelling with him over the last couple of days. We came out through Dundrum at after about 12:30 last night. The remains of a firework display had been there, and people were wandering home from the pubs. They were singing, they were chanting. Dundrum, it's a big, big party for them up there. And we actually stopped at the monument, and he was very emotional about the whole thing. He said, I just can't wait till tomorrow, he says. It's a fantastic occasion. Very, very hard to put it into just a few words. But I think when we get out there today, he's going to be so proud. I'm travelling with him. I'm from Dundrum as well. For all of us, everybody from the area, is going to be just a tremendous occasion.
Hello and welcome. Welcome on the Tour de France 98 to Pia.
Dundrum is, of course, Stephen Roach's hometown, and believe it or not, that is the bike that he won the World Championships on in 1987. With me is Joe Daly, and Joe, you remember Stephen as a young man, don't you?
I do, yeah. I remember Stephen well at a very early age, and as I say, his first race that he won under 16 was one on the Ballyogan Road.
This, of course, is Stephen's yellow jersey from '87. How did you come by that, Joe?
Well, I got a loan of his bike and also his yellow jersey for the occasion.
Today, very proud day for you, Joe.
Very proud day. Never thought it would happen in Dundrum. That's
the Tour de France.
Tour de France come true. When we had ordinary fellas riding here that we never thought would ever reach the heights that Stephen and Sean Kelly. I must mention Sean Kelly as well, has risen to those heights. And they're still the same type of fellas as what they were before they went away.
And there is the local hero of Dundrum, Stephen Roach, with his mother, and here with the cavalcade of motorbike police as the actual race itself get underway from Dundrum at 11:45. And what a sight it was. Crowds crammed on the footpaths on either side to witness the 189 cyclists off on the return trip to Wicklow. Just over 180 kilometres in all, with a spectacular Category 3 climb up the Col de Wicklow, or the plain old Wicklow Gap as we generally call it. A massive colour on the road and pretty spectacular either side too. And what an honour for Roach and the people of Dundrum. The first stage on the way, and the real business of professional cycling to be decided. Chris Boardman in yellow, but his GAN teammates may find themselves having to work hard to defend that jersey. Let's join our commentary team, John Kirwan and Jimmy McGee.
And that's the group that have gotten away. For how long we will see.
It's a good group though, some good riders in it. Cripaldi is a good lad, 143, and he could be in the shake-up this evening. 162, another man with good form, Buenahora, a recent winner in the Catalan week. And there's the main bunch, the Peloton, who will probably be riding echelon fashion today, especially if that wind is very much a crosswind, and it was very high winds when they began today. And of course they're becoming more exposed now up as they approach the only climb, the first categorized climb on Tour de France 1998, the Wicklow Gap, as they call it on the book of the Tour de France, the Col de Wicklow Gap. It has never been called that before, I should think. Coming into Rathdrum in the county of Wicklow, and there's the breakaway septet. We're trying to steal a march on the others. Voigt, Van Hefte, Cripaldi, Benitez, De Los Angeles is a check on 5 of them. Also there is Zanini and Jacky Duran. And a good crowd out, and you'll notice the flags of France, the flags of Ireland hanging from the windows. France's pride and joy, the Tour, Le Tour.
And one of the prides and joys of Irish men and women would be John Millington Singh of Wicklow Stock. And in fact the Singh Summer School is on in Rathdrum, finishing up today. Ireland at its very, very best. These pictures going to over 100 countries around the world.
They're halfway on today's stage, 90 kilometers, which is near enough halfway, give or two a couple of meters. And you can just see the main bunch, the Peloton, passing through Rathdrum, so there's quite a considerable. We didn't get an official time check on it as yet, but even visually, it's quite considerable of those 7 men who have gone away. And it's 3 minutes and 9 seconds now. 3 minutes and 9 seconds. It did look good, and it's, as I said before, it's the sort of territory you just might sneak away. Although if you're a betting man, you'd have to say this is set up for a bunch finish today. But 3 minutes 9 seconds is good, and the 7 men away are Voigt, De Los Angeles, Van Hefte, Zanini, Duran, Cripaldi, and Garcia Rodriguez. 49, or rather 89 there we see is Jens Voigt.
Riding with Chris Boardman's team. The Festina team, by the way, for your information, have hired a lawyer to fend off those doping charges. You're probably aware by now that over 400 vials of an illegal substance were found in one of the team cars before yesterday's start of the Tour de France. Drugs were discovered in one of the Festina's car, the Masseur's car, Willy Voigt. And the Festina team director, Bruno Roussel, said that Voigt was not even going to be part of the Tour de France team. And he complained that people were drawing the wrong conclusions and rushing to pass judgment before the facts were known. As we watch somebody trying to get away or orchestrate something, Cipollini's boys from the front of the peloton, they will be aware of the deficit that Jimmy mentioned of 3 minutes and 9 seconds, but they will be, I think it's fair to say, in total control at this stage. Beautiful surface for the riders, the best of everything for the visitors, and this most historic sporting occasion, the Tour de France in Ireland. It really is hard to believe. Well, there are 7 men away, as your pictures have told you, and of course there were 7 men from Ireland who rode in the Tour de France. Shay Elliott, Ian Moore, Sean Kelly, Stephen Roach, Martin Early, Paul Kimmage and Lawrence Roach. And they are 7 names that will go down in the history of Irish cycling sport.
At the top of the Tour de France course, 7 riders away. They got it up to 3 minutes and 9 seconds. They've gone through Rathdrum, Lara, the next port of call, and then they'll be thinking of that climb of the Wicklow Gap, which is categorized as a category 3 in Tour de France terms. But they're each doing a bit. Garcia Rodriguez is the one going through there now. But these 7 fellows away, Garcia Rodriguez is the man from the Spain, and there we have a check on some of the Zanini Fermati. We are in Lara. The famous Lynham's there in Lara. They make the turn, and we're really at the top of Ireland here. Big crowd out, really big crowd from around the surrounding Wicklow County. A lovely spot, Lara, and they're passing through. The 7 are, and this crowd will have to wait another 3 minutes or thereabouts for the next lot to come.
So Wicklow, steeped in history, steeped in beauty, and steeped at the moment in entertaining the greatest cyclists in the world.
They don't have time, as Walter Hagen once said in a golf context, they don't have time to smell the roses, but they do know, and the message will have got to them, that the lead is going down. It's now 2 minutes 40 seconds from the 7 away to the main peloton, which has been driven by the Seco team. 174 there is De Los Angeles, debut as a pro last year. 97 is Van Hifte, without a considerable win in his credit. None of these are big hitters in terms of professional cycling. $162 from that Seguros team, the insurance company. But they seem to be still have the will for it.
Zanini getting instructions from his team car. Not allowed to touch the vehicles, by the way. If you do, there's a hefty fine. No pushing or shoving. Some of the riders, believe it or not, have an actual earpiece, and they can take instructions from the car, and that will tell them how far they are in front, how far the deficit is, what they've got to do, who looks like making a break, who to watch out for, or if one of their leaders is in trouble, to come back and give support. High-tech stuff, no doubt about it. The peloton in pursuit. Cipollini's men making sure that nobody does any great damage as they pursue the 7 who have gotten away.
At 2 minutes 40 seconds, the main peloton, as we look at this team still pumping it up. That's Fornaciari, but the whole list of Italians right back down. It's completely an Italian team that Mario Cipollini has assembled around him. Again, the tricolour and the tricolour being waved on the side of the road there. And it's a nice, that mixture of the French and the Irish, that theme that is running through the Tour de France of 1998. No wonder it's called the Garden of Ireland. It's beautifully manicured, the whole place along. Mind you, the county councils have done a super job. We were out during the week reconnoitring the course, and the county councils were out trimming the hedges and making a lovely job of it. As you can see, the road surface is beautiful as well. So it's truly Ireland of the welcomes for this Tour de France, of whom the main part are these riders. You can have all the VIPs, all the tents, and all the officials, all the Jean-Marie Leblancs, but without these guys, no event.
And look, Jimmy, do you see what I see? The sun is shining on the riders. And you can see the gradual climb now. Out of the saddle. First man doing the work. Second man giving a hand. The boys in red, well, they're sitting in and dragging. I haven't seen them do much work yet, but they're working together. The boys in red, that is. The Seiko boys. Very, very experienced team.
Rossioli is the man at the front there from the Essex team. The Yankees in that team as well. And Simeone, Filippo Simeone. And they've got a man from Kazakhstan, Alex Shefta, who is a good rider with a good amateur career behind him. But here is the peloton now, and they won't get back much here. It was yesterday that Stephen Roach said, okay, Wicklow Gap is only a category 3, but there won't be too many smiles from the riders when they get up there. And plus the fact, and this is important, the road is narrow, so they can't keep a big tempo up here. 7 men at the front can, but these guys, there's just not enough room for them. And that is a very important aspect of it. A very important one for these fellows to retain their 2 minutes, 40 seconds at the head of affairs. And they're making a darn good job of it.
And the scenery gets better as the race goes on. The skies are brightening. The colours superb. By the way, we mentioned prize money earlier, $250,000 or whatever it is, plus all the bonuses. When Stephen Roach won the Tour de France in 1987, I think it was £17,000 he received. So big changes over those 10 or 12 years. Sport, a business now, truly a business, and television the reason for that. And the pictures you get now show the riders on the start of the climb that will eventually probably determine who wins this first stage in Wicklow.
111 kilometers behind them. 69 to go, and this is the climb to the Wicklow Gap, and this will be, of course, very exciting factor in the polka dot jersey, which will be donned later on this evening, and a very important point, denying the big hitters in the peloton those sort of points. And it's as you can see, category 3, they may tell them on the profile book at Tour de France, but they'll know they've been on a climb when they get to the summit of the Wicklow Gap. Meantime behind, a couple of stray Aztecs with the Seiko Cannondale team, and they are the teams at the head of affairs, but there's the yellow jersey of Chris Boardman tucked in there. Chris doesn't like the mountains, he will tell you that openly, but when he talks mountains, he's talking Alpe d'Huez, and he's talking Lutz Ardennes and that type of territory. For him, this should be no trouble, and he's nicely protected, taking up a good position. He's not going to be caught behind in case there might be a crash, heaven forbid, and he's caught in that domino effect. So good positioning and good sense by Chris Boardman. Meantime, we're up at the top of the course, that is, the top of the race, and the encouragement, look at this, it's of Alpe d'Huez proportions, the crowds that will come out to the Wicklow Gap. Of course, it's part of cycling in Ireland, the Wicklow Gap. You've never ridden a bike until you've ridden over the Wicklow Gap. It's tough enough to drive in a car, but these are the 7 who have been away, and these are the 7 who are going to go over the summit virtually together. We just have to pick up who, in fact, gets the main prize. But that's Voigt at the back, number 89 there. Probably Garcia Rodriguez might be the best of the climbers here, but it's anybody's guess as to go over the top. De Los Angeles is 174, back-breaking it is, but they're getting within sight of it now. And when you consider, this really puts the Tour de France into perspective. Think of this as only a category 3. Above that, in France next week and the week after, they have category 2, category 1, and then the one that's out of category altogether, categorized as HC. That tells you about the severity, because this is severe enough. And these 7 fellas have done a tremendous job. See the fellas who run beside them, see how fast they're running, and they can't keep up with it. They've begun up here at over 23, 24 miles an hour on a bicycle.
Yeah, it's hard-stopping stuff, believe me. You want to be very, very fit to take this on. And as you can see now, they're riding virtually into the mist. Extraordinary sights here in Dublin, and great crowds, despite what was to have been a very wet day. It's turned out to be pleasant so far. And they know now, they're getting word from the motorbikes that Jimmy mentioned earlier, how far there is the lead is, and those cars going through will also be giving them the good or the bad news. Acknowledgement, yes, I heard that, and I'm sorry I heard that we were 240, but what is it now? Don't tell me it's that bad. We'll see shortly. Looking back in angst, Jacky Duran.
Need some sort of service, that's for sure. Every vantage point, what hour must have been up here today to see this. This is the Peloton, and they're cheering them on. The red-clad Seco Cannondale team, and the yellow jersey visible just behind them there, not more than 15 places back. Chris Boardman. Alano is there as well. Jalabert, Moreau, Ulrich not far behind. Alex Zula up certainly in the first 30 as you look back through. And there is that very colourful scene. We can pick out all the colours, the kaleidoscope of colour that is professional cycling. The sponsors' names, the colours, the crowds, the greenery in the background. You want to be an artist to paint this, wouldn't you?
Well, you wouldn't want to be at the back of that peloton, because when they cross the brow of the hill, they'll be going down maybe at 50 miles an hour, and the road is relatively narrow, and there will be no way through for the boys at the back, so they're going to have a problem. If they're at the very, very back now, as we cross over the top, when they get there, they're going to look, and they're going to see riders going fast on a very narrow strip of road, and no matter how strong they feel, there will be no room for them to overtake. Again, he wants support. What it is that Duran is looking for, I'm not sure, but he's anxious. He's not getting the service. The neutral car should be there to help him, but the casino car will be allowed through.
Down to 151 now. The peloton is on the move. I think Jacky Duran there would rather like somebody to come up and give him a drink. I don't know if that's what it is, but it could very well be, but he's sticking in with them anyway. The lead is now down to 1:51. They've worked at it. The Seco boys, particularly at the back, have worked and worked and worked to bring it back. 7 riders away. At one stage they got it at 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Then the Seco boys worked in the peloton, got it back to 240. 1:51 the last check. Van Hifte here from Belgium, from the Lotto Movistar team. He's looking around. Can he get support? What about the guys behind him? They were doing bit and bit for a long time. He knows that they've got to keep it going, because when the motor goes behind in the peloton, it could just swamp these guys in, and they move in one powerful drive. There's 26 seconds gone, almost while we were making the last couple of paragraphs. From 3:09 to 1:25. Can these boys stay away? That at the moment is the running story on stage 1 of Tour de France. The prologue won yesterday by Chris Boardman, and today he's in the yellow jersey.
And again, great support on the Wicklow Hills for this superb circus, the greatest moving circus of sport in the world. Superb crowds, great support for the riders, a great compliment to the Irish sporting public. Flags of all nations in Wicklow for the Tour de France, which will finish in the Phoenix Park on Chesterfield Avenue. And 7 still away, but the deficit was 3 minutes. Then it went to 2:40. It went down to 1:51. The last we heard, it was at 1:25, and they're getting news because they're going harder as they approach the top.
Yeah, this is the one. A Brazilian flag on the side of the road with thoughts ahead to a few hours' time, and this is a great battle for to see who's going to pick up this mounted bonus. This, the polka dot, could be decided here. We look at them trying to get over the top here. The first man over the top, somebody's been left. Coming up to the summit of called the Wicklow Gap.
I think it's the GAM rider, Jimmy, I'm not sure. But they're trying to reorganize things. They're not happy the way it's going. The Matte boy says, "You're not doing your stint. I beg your pardon," is the reply, or words to that effect. But they're going to have to work harder. They're in disarray at the moment.
So Zanini are happy enough then. Stefano Zanini.
They must get away from the peloton now before the revs of the downhill hills bring in the big boys with the team support that the stars of world cycling will have with them. And that is James Voigt.
Confirmation of the climb. Zanini took it, gets the 10 points. Voigt second, and Benitez was the 5-point man in third position.
So now the pace increases. They've crossed the category 3, and it's downhill all the way now.
Downhill all the way to Hollywood. Many people in the acting profession would think it's uphill to Hollywood. Dangerous bridges on this particular part of the road, so they've got to be awfully careful. The surface, as you can see, is damp. The bridges are narrow, and a mistake can be very costly. Jacky Duran was the one who tried to jump the field and get away and do a solo performance. Number 39 there is the man who gets the full points on the mountain. The category 3, Stefano Zanini. It's a bit bedraggled, the whole affair now. The peloton kind of fragmenting, but they'll get together, have no doubt about that, behind and chase these fellas as hard as ever they can. Number 89, Jens Voigt, only a second-year professional. You see them all tucking in now to wind resistance as best they can. Tighten up their form as they go downhill now, and it has been a breezy day. The trees seem stable enough, but you can see the back of the jersey there of the number 89 Jens Voigt gives you some idea of the wind whipping through these riders. The 7 of them doing their best to stay away and make this a very special day on Tour de France. Here comes the next man up. Now, this is how they do bit and bit. The next fellow will be just getting ready. It's echelon as it is. They're covering each other from the wind. The next man will come and take his bit. It's about time he did it now. And the man who was leading will slip back into 7th place. Then the next guy on the outside. And then somewhere along the way, maybe somebody will be cheeky enough to jump and make a solo attack. Though I don't think anybody's going to get away. And basically, if these 7 fellows can get together, they could keep this margin at a minute and a half or thereabouts. And there's checking some of the names: Zanini, Duran, Voigt, Van Hefte, Crepaldi, the Italian from Team Polte, then De Los Angeles and Benitez. A good 7, a big 7. They've worked hard all day, and they've climbed well, and they've ridden well. They've had a few little words to say to each other, but I think that's only just the different languages getting together. One guy speaks Flemish as a natural language, Italian, French, but I think, and Spanish. I think now they've got it together. And we just haven't had a time check for a while on the peloton, but you can be sure that it's working hard.
And a few minutes ago they got word from the motorbike of what the deficit was. We don't know what it is yet. We hope to have it shortly, but they know how they're doing and they know how the peloton is reacting to their breakaway. And thus far it hasn't really been reacting as one would have expected because of all those big riders, these precious points. Remember, the deficit in the great La Manche victory was only 8 seconds when they hit Paris, so all these seconds precious, no matter what you may think. A lot can happen in the mountains, I understand, and you understand, but the final analysis is, as the peloton tries to close down on the breakaway group, that it's the fastest man with the lowest cumulative time who will take the Malaujon and the Champs-Élysées on the 2nd of August. Now the peloton moving steadily, slowly. Are they bearing down? Are they closing the gap?
Chris Boardman on the outside there in the middle of your screen now, left-hand side of the road, always keeping in touch. It's very, very important. It's so swiftly by the blackboard, but the blackboard is telling them there what the margin is at the moment, and maybe shortly they'll tell us as well.
I think it said 120, but I could not be sure. Difficult to see. But the wind whipping up, as Jimmy's pointed out earlier, the jersey's flapping. And that's not just the speed they're doing around the 30 miles an hour, that's the searing crosswind. Makes it more difficult for them. A lot of riding out of the pedals.
All little climbs within the general course here, and we're back to the helicopter picking up that breakaway lot. Now let's go back slowly, swing that camera to the right, and let's see where the peloton is. Still not in sight.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it's a good lead. It's a good lead. In difficult circumstances, because Zeko, here they are. Zeko have been pushing it at the front. Boardman wants to keep in contact. He wants tonight to wear that yellow jersey when the whole tour is transferred tomorrow to Enniscorthy, County Wexford. That'll be brilliant there. The town is on fit for that, and make the way to Cork. It's still 1:25. Good work at the front. Very good bit and bit riding by the 7 riders, despite the best efforts of the peloton. And here they are. The Essex are there again, but Seiko Cannondale still a prominent position. Looking back, you see Boardman back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 12th position. Zule close up there too. Pantani is a bit further back. And there's Boardman. There's a good clear view now of Chris Boardman in about 16th position. defending his yellow jersey, that famous Tour de France garment.
When we cross the river, one of those dangerous bridges you've got to snake through very slowly. Stunning scenery. Ireland of 1,000 shades of green, not 40, at its very, very best. Purple blue mountains in the background, and on a sunny day it would be even more breathtaking, but it looks pretty good from here. And there you are, it's still at 1:25. You boys have a lot to do. We know, they say, let's get to it. Now some of them are stepping out of the pedals, trying to up the pace, but it's somewhat fragmented, and the 7 boys still stay ahead.
Nonetheless, at 1:25 they maintained that now for a long time. That's been good, solid professional riding. It meant that every man had to do his piece. There are no shirkers. You cannot afford to carry anybody in a 7 or a 6 or a 5 or anything who's not doing their piece. And all of these obviously are. And that's why they've maintained it at 1:25. There was a time when it looked it was going to go on them from 3:09 to 2:40, and almost before you could say Peloton, it was down to 1:51, then to 1:25, but it's been held at that for a long time. And behind they'll know, of course, too, what they have to do as we snake back the road. And there it is, this powerful sight of the Peloton, 182 riders trying to make touch with the 7 who are away.
And full marks to Jacky Duran of the 7. It was he who reprimanded them as the Peloton crosses that very narrow bridge. Duran at the top of the call in Wicklow said, look, let's get our act together, no more bitching, no more whinging. If we work together, we can surprise everybody and stay away from the big guns, the men who would be king of this Tour de France.
So there it is from the helicopter, looking back at that great caravan all the way back for miles and miles. Remember, for a full hour before this, we had the publicity caravan ahead of the Tour de France. Still a Seiko rider at the head of affairs. It looks like Cal Cantere at the head there for Seiko Cannondale team.
Azek's bringing up the rear, Scotty with him too. They are now starting the echelon riding, and if this group at the head of the peloton can work together rather than come across the road in one big fat sandwich, if they start working as a team, as the 7 ahead of them are doing, they could perhaps reel it in. 10 seconds they've taken off the break of the 7. It's down to 1:15, so that's encouraging news. But still a lot of work to be done, and the big boys still loitering in the back, allowing, as Jimmy McGee said, the domestiques do the work at the front. The boys who make all the headway and give as much protection as they can to their team leader. 7 riders still away. They had a lead of over 3 minutes. It went down to 2:40. It then reduced itself to 1:51, down to 1:25, and the big guns in the chasing pack trying to close it down even further before it's too late. Because after Hollywood is Blessington, then British, then Tala, then Templeogue, then Walkinstown, then Inchicore, and then Glory for one perhaps of those 7 riders in the Phoenix Park. But there's one 3.5 mile circuit. They finish on Chesterfield Avenue outside Ars and Uachtaráin, and it could be Voigt, it could be De Los Angeles, it could be Van Veit, Zanini, Crepaldi, Durand, or Benitez. We don't know, but the big boys are behind, and they know exactly how much time is left, how many more miles have to be covered, and what the great plan is to reel this 7-man breakaway back.
Or John, will it be Cipollini or Zabel who are hiding back there? You don't see them, not exactly hiding, it's all part of the team plan. It's cycling, they're not shirking responsibility, they're paying others to do this kind of donkey work for them. But there are days in Tour de France when domestiques are allowed their head. Very often it's a lone breakaway later on in the Tour when somebody is miles down on general classification, and he goes away, builds up a lead 20 minutes and has the day to himself. Very often you see a man in the lead passing through his hometown or home village. Alas, in Tour de France 1998 we don't have an Irishman to go out and applaud. But then the Irishmen in the past who did bring us the attention of Tour de France have done their bit, and the Tour has finally arrived here. Hollywood crossroads in the county of Wicklow, and a big crowd out as there have been all along the route to cheer, to welcome, to encourage, to cajole these fellows. And behind they'll know the power of the peloton. Men will turn to men and say, I think they'll catch them. And the men who will listen will nod and say, yeah, I think you're right. And when it comes to the Phoenix Park and that fine, look at this for a crowd, look at this for a crowd in County Wicklow, Hollywood, West Wicklow, coming out in style to welcome these great bike riders and lovely colours, every colour known to mankind. They'll arrive in 53 and a bit kilometres. It's a terrific day for all the people who will, I think, can safely say, everybody who's standing at the crossroads in Hollywood can safely say, John, we will never again see the Tour de France in Ireland.
Yes, Jimmy, you're absolutely right. It's one of those days when you will say, I was there. And so were the 7 men who have gone away, who still stay away. And I will to Van Heft, number 97, on the right of your picture. Again, he's bitching. Again, he says, look, I need more support. You've got to go to the front. I've got to get a breather. I can't do it on my own. But the snake gets longer, and the snake thins out, and the snake gets closer to the target ahead, the 7 breakaway riders.
When you see them like this, stretched out like this, you can be sure the pace is up. It's down to 45 seconds. Seiko Cannondale again at the head of it. What a ride this man Calcaterra has done for his team. And if Cipollini wins the stage, should hand him the whole bounty. They've done a great job as a team, and Calcaterra and Donati in particular up front. The faces of expectancy as the whirling 50-mile-an-hour peloton passes by.
Superb pictures. Congratulations to everybody involved in that. Whirling is the word, Jimmy. A blur of speed, colour, a riot of colour as the Tour de France sweeps down the roads. Fantastic pictures. Days to remember. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The year the Tour de France came to Ireland.
Heading for Blessington, County Wicklow, wherein there will be a sprint. Blessington, there's the reservoir, so much part of the whole water system for around Wicklow and Kildare, and especially the capital city of Dublin. And Blessington itself, and the lakes of Blessington, they now have a rowing course, and that's where the Irish Olympic rowers prepare. Wicklow, as we said earlier on, the Garden of Ireland, and it's a garden in full bloom today. Seiko again, doing their bit, doing their stuff. TVM have got a presence there now too, and the Cofidis team. So all of these now will be gathering positions, tactical positions, to bring their sprinters up, to put them in prime positions, because I think everybody knows now this is going to be a speed gallop around the Phoenix Park, or is there just any chance that the 7 will stay away? Well, this is a beautiful sight. When Tour de France came to Ireland, I think everybody was hoping that Ireland would be showing its best face. That's
About 40 km left in the race. The 7 are still away. The peloton still in control, has them in their sights. Earlier in the race they lost them on the winding, twisting roads, hidden by the oak and the elm trees, but now they're in view, and that's bad news for the 7, because the odds are that they will in fact be reeled in by the peloton, by the Seiko boys that Jimmy mentioned, by the Kelme riders, by the ASIC riders who are preparing and nudging forward and getting ready for their leaders, their sprinters, to hit the road at maximum revs when the time is right. The beautiful riding machines, the GAN bikes, the choice of course of Boardman, who has the yellow jersey on his back at the moment, but they're the boys who still ride away and still ride as one.
7 riders, 7 brave souls who decided either by draw or selection or accident that they'd be together on a breakaway on stage 1 of the 1998 Tour de France. And here's a man who's contributed enormously, Crepaldi, and also, well, everybody has done their bit. De Los Angeles, terrific name, Jose de Los Angeles, and 97 moving up is Van Hefte, and they're pushing it now again and doing bit and bit. And remember, there's a sprint coming up in Blessington, and bonus seconds there, 6:42 are the seconds.
And Russborough House, the home of some of the world's greatest masterpieces. It really is a stunning, stunning view. Ireland looking as it's never looked before, and remember, over 110 countries around the world are looking at these pictures as they snake again to the relative cover of the trees, and the peloton, Seiko at the front, Seiko on the right, Cipollini probably in that little bunch back on the right, but the Seiko rider leading out, 2, 3, 4 in the first 7 riders, but on the right of your picture and out of picture, I think, is Mario Cipollini waiting for his opportunity to go from the gun.
Chris Boardman in yellow, 8th place, keeping tag on everything, keeping watch on everything, looking, waiting, watching.
Now, there's a mess to get in or out of, particularly on a bicycle. Superbly maintained. Everything in Ireland actually at its very most pristine for this race. The amount of paint that has been sold the last month, not to mention the tarmac macadam that's been laid on the roads, not to mention the number of shears that have been bought from the hardware stores. Ireland should be proud of what it has done for the Tour de France. It really is magnificent. Still away, 7 riders on the newly tarmac macadam road. The bird's eye, the cat's eyes, by the way, have been taken out for fear they could trap one of the very narrow wheels that these cyclists use. So everything taken into account. And there's the result of the first sprint into Bray. Svoboda getting the 6 seconds that Jimmy mentioned. Zabel, as you would have expected, getting into 2nd place, and Freddie Moncasson gets 2 precious seconds. Well, they could be precious in a few weeks' time.
That was the first sprint of the day, early on in the day. The second sprint was at Arklow, Zanini, Duran and Crepaldi getting that one. I don't think any of those would be reasonably expecting Maillot Vert in Paris on the final day of the Tour. But nonetheless, they picked them up today. And the roads, of course, now are beginning to get wider and wider and wider as they approach the capital of Ireland. And as the roads get wider, the sight line to the leaders will become better for the riders here in the peloton, and the speed will go up, and everybody should be absorbed together in one fantastic gallop.
Well, the pictures tell everything there. The boys were away as they approached the sprint or out of the saddle, but behind the boys are sitting in the saddle. They are very confident, I think. The peloton has this in control.
Blessington, the 3rd sprint of the day, at 139 kilometers.
Sun is shining again. It's looking good for the finish.
The man who is most to gain from this is Jacky Duran. He was 20 seconds behind the yellow jersey starting off today. Now he's already got himself a couple of bonus points, so he could do well if he can make up this. He's ridden very, very well today. Jacky Duran, number 65. They'll be coming into the last couple of 100 meters now into this sprint. Sorry for the little break up in pictures, but it's one of those days. With the helicopter feed, we're now back on the motorbike. Try and find Benitez. He's moved to the front. 97 is Van Hefte. The one to watch for, 65, Jacky Duran. He could really benefit. But Crepaldi, 143, is a very fast man. Look at the crowd at Blessington.
Zanini at the back, moving out to the right. The attack on the right.
It's Duran.
Duran is
gone. He's gone. He's going to pick up these bonus seconds, and he's the man with most to gain from this 7. The chase is up to get him. Van Hefte's gone and chased, but it looks like it's going to be, is it? Yes, it is. Jacky Duran pushing it for all his worth to get those bonus seconds. Brilliant, Duran. 20 seconds behind today. He picks up a 6th there. He had a couple earlier on, and he's gone moved right up on GC.
And that superb sprint from Duran will probably have increased the tempo generally of the chasing peloton. But remember, as they are out of the sprint, they won't be going quite as hard. There's Duran again. The slow-mo across from the right, drifts into the left, and goes the shortest way home.
Blessington, County Wicklow. 182 riders in pursuit of 7. And of those 7, it was Jacky Duran who won the sprint in Blessington, passing through a massive crowd that has turned out superbly today. Ireland, for any sports event, it can be the show jumping at the RDS, the All-Ireland hurling of football finals, the soccer and rugby international. It doesn't seem no matter what it is, the Irish people will turn out and support and applaud, and it's terrific, and it fills one with joy to see it. Seiko still at the front of the peloton, in the chase, and what odds Cipollini put stage?
Well, Cipollini is the man that we expect to see crossing the line in the Phoenix Park outside Arsene-Outhron. He's tucked in there in the bright red somewhere. The man who earns £1 million in his salary and probably more from endorsements, one of the highest paid cyclists in the world. As we said earlier, the winner on the podium on the Champs-Élysées gets in excess of $250,000. When Stephen Roach won the Triple Crown in '87 for his trouble, he received £17,000. Things have changed. The sport is getting bigger. The sport is more dramatic, and the biggest race in that sport is in Ireland here today.
Kellogg's Optima Fruit and Fibre now combines the finest ingredients with Opti-V, a brilliant blend of all 8 B vitamins. Kellogg's Optima. Opti-V your best in the morning.
Japan's legendary Kodo drummers with the Dono Lunny Band. July 14th, 40S, at the Guinness Global Gathering. Tickets from usual outlets.
New Centrum contains a complete and balanced range of 31 vitamins, minerals and antioxidants necessary to maintain long-term good health. Centrum, complete from A to Zinc.
When we lie, we perspire. The fingertips never lie. Did you enter zone 12? No. Did you escape the zone with sample letter 3? No.
But we know she's lying. How is this possible? How is this possible?
The new Furniture Centre Cork Super Anniversary Sale is now on. Massive reductions in sitting room, dining room, kitchen and bedroom furniture. Open 7 days and on Sunday 2:30 to 6.
Did you know curling tongs and hair dryers can actually be good for your hair? Because organics contains advanced protective agents which are heat activated to actually improve the condition of your hair. So blow drying can make it look and feel healthy and beautiful from root to tip. Organics. Where there's heat, there's beautiful hair.
Are they better than what you used before?
Yes and no.
Why? What did you use before?
My mother.
Are these personal tablets easy to use?
Put 2 tablets in the net, put them out in the machine, turn it on. It's hardly rocket science.
Tell me about the net.
The net helps the tablets get everywhere around the wash, and that's why they clean so well.
So without the net?
They wouldn't clean so well.
So it's the fizzing everywhere in the wash that helps get the clothes so clean then?
Is it? I can't even monkeys. All I know is it works.
Would you go back to the old way?
Would you go back to an outside loop?
Persil's new tablets.
The colour, the crowds and the atmosphere building all the time here in a very windy Phoenix Park. The finishing line, well, it's about 500 yards down there. The publicity cavalcade has just arrived. It's a sure sign that the riders are not that far away, and everybody is really looking forward to the finish here.
And that's the length of the chasing pack, the peloton, the main bunch. Those at the back have probably accepted the fact now that they're not going to get up. All the colours of the top teams in the world. And a little attack on the right-hand side, off the front.
Looks like Jacky Duran,
It looks like Jacky Duran, 65, if we can get his number. Two of them away, in fact, and this is a surprise now that wasn't part of the great plan. The team of 7 is now a team of 2, but they'd probably be taken in. They seem to have dropped down on the revs. No, nothing serious there. An attempted attack by Van Heeft and Duran with him. Well, it's not an attempted attack. It looks like it's one that could well work. I thought they had slowed down the pace, but now if these two work together, there could be hell to play in the peloton. Duran and Van Heeft away. They've dropped their 5 close friends. It's a pretty rough sport. All that work they did through the mountains, through the rain, up the hills, shaking off the peloton, going through the villages, working together, taking instructions, listening to each other, pitching at each other, and now 2 have deceived the other 5.
Duran is in celebratory mood. Remember, he had that success into Blessington, and he really fancies himself, and obviously he feels in good condition. It's 35 seconds back to the peloton, and it's go for it now for Van Hefte and Duran. And this little Belgian is driving it for all he's worth. He's put in an absolutely super day. He hasn't shirked, he's worked and he's worked and he's worked. He looks older than his 26 years, and he looks a lot older at the end of this. But here they come, marauding and pushing this marvellous peloton, this split colour, moving as one body at a tremendous pace here in County Wicklow, shortly to be in County Dublin, and then shortly to be on the outskirts of the city for the big finish in the Phoenix Park. Now it's the drop down out of Crooksling, and Jacky Duran takes his turn at the front. Now you see Van Hefte out of the saddle just before Duran did. Van Hefte, I think, just maybe stretching it a bit to keep with Duran. Duran is the stronger man, and he's certainly the quicker man. And if these two fellas could stay together and do bit and bit, I'd say Van Hefte knows that he probably won't beat Duran in a 2-up sprint, but you never know. And meantime behind is the huge opposition. It all seems so unfair that 187 fellas should be trying to chase down a mere 2.
I think it's about 25 miles left as the 187 close in, or hope to close in, coming into British on Van Hefte and Durande as we arrive in County Dublin. And again, some stunning shots from the helicopters, but the stunning news is Van Hefte and Durant have broken away from the Magnificent 7. They're down to 2 sinister riders now, and the peloton has a problem on its hands.
And we're now coming down this big sweep into Tala in Dublin.
And as you can see, going the shortest possible way home, cutting the corners, but they must work together. They know that they have a chance if they work together. They have absolutely none if they attack as a singular rider. You've got to work together when there's only 2 of you, when the greatest riders in the world are bearing down on you. But Jimmy mentioned that perhaps Van Heijten might feel somewhat inferior to Durand, the Frenchman. Well, if he does, that could give him the foolish thoughts that perhaps he should try and jump him as they get near the Phoenix Park. But we'll see what happens. Bear in mind, Cipollini's boys know exactly what's happened. They too know the distance is 1 minute. They too know what has to be done. And their mathematicians have told them when and where they must strike, and when and where they must up the pace. Don't ride off the peloton.
2 riders away. 2 men who diced with the affair today. They were part of 7 initially. The other 5 have been shed back in the peloton, and these 2 are hoping they can stay away for a win in the first stage of the tour in the Phoenix Park in Dublin. Van Hefte, Paul Van Hefte of Belgium, Jacky Duran of France, and that's Duran taking it up at the front. But the leads take a turn at the front, maybe 100 metres or thereabout, maybe slightly less than 100 metres, but they need longer stretches with just two of them. And that's Duran, as you got a good sign, sticking to the white line, a white line without any cat's eyes. Behind them, the peloton, trying to get it going. Essex and Cannondale Seco, the yellow jersey not far behind either, keeping in touch. No sign of the telecom team trying to get Zabel up. And that's interesting. The TVM team are there for Blaelevens. There's about 4 of them there. And I'm surprised at this stage that the telecom haven't been showing their hand for Zabel, but there's still plenty of time to go. Meantime, these courageous two are battling it out, and they're holding their time, and they're holding their lead, and it's terrific. Still, the policeman from Seco up the front. It's stretching out a bit. That's a good sign always that the speed is up. As the chase is on, it stretches out. Still got to protect each other echelon fashion as they come into the outskirts of Tala in Dublin. A town, really, a city of its own now, of over 90,000 population, with football pitches, the national basketball arenas in Tala, terrific 10-pin bowling centre. And meantime, these two talk to each other in, I suppose, the common language is French. Most Belgians will speak both Flemish and French. And it's Van Hefte with Duran.
And it's down to 35 seconds. 35 seconds, the peloton. That's the gap between Van Hefte and Duran and Glory. It's probably not enough.
Two really can't play 187 in any game. And with the best will in the world, it looks like Duran and Van Hefte are going to be caught, but not until they've given it their very, very best shot. The helicopter will tell the tale very shortly. There it is. And what a pity, but how often we've seen it on Tour de France and Giro, on Vuelta de España, the breakaways, doing the best, working bit and bit, and there they are, almost as though they're tied together, like twins. Duran and Van Hefte. Van Hefte doing his spot at the front. Duran will know, though, he's been in this position before. He's been a chaser in the past. He's been a breakaway in the past, so he knows both sides of the story.
And I'm wondering now, is he realising that perhaps he shouldn't have dropped the other 5, because as Jimmy McGee said, 2 on their own against a mighty, mighty peloton. Well, it's asking rather a lot. Perhaps they should have kept 1 or 2 other riders. Perhaps they should have confided in their evil thoughts and they were going to break on their own. But, well, reflection perhaps, but we will never know the answer to that one. Not at this day anyway. Perhaps later in the week they'll meet each other and Voigt will say, listen, Van Hefte, you should have told me. Zanini would say, look, I was willing to work. Capaldi would have said the same thing.
And the telecom team are assembling at the front. And this is significant. That's Zabel's team, Eric Zabel, the points winner in the last 2 tours.
It also happens to be the team of Ulrich and Rees rather, Lorne Rees. So Jimmy said, and Jimmy is right, it's very significant.
TVM are there too. That's TVM just going to the front. But look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 telecoms. The TVM boys are trying to get up to give a lead out to Blaelevens. But at the front, it's still Duran and Van Hefte. But behind them, as you can see now, in a few seconds, they'll be absorbed. But they've given it their best shot. Duran has a look, has a shout to Van Hefte. Now, as to whether Duran, how many more bit and bits they'll do before they resign to the fact that they are caught. Duran is sitting up. He reckons that this is it. He puts on the crash helmet and he's thinking of the finish in the park.
He's thinking of Cipollini's elbows in his left eye. That's what he's thinking of. It's going to be rough when they hit the park. Elbows, spittle, you name it, it all happens. And last year a can or two was thrown. There was an inquiry about that, but more about that perhaps later, as the mighty peloton swoops in and gobbles up the brave two, Van Hefte and Durand. They did their best. It wasn't good enough. They will sit in. They will hope to be there at the finish. but I imagine they've spent most of what they brought with them to Ireland. Each team has its own game plan. Each team knows exactly what they'll do where. They haven't been over the course, but they know to the very metre how far there is left. And now it's cat and mouse. Now it's stall time. Now it's bottle time. Now it's empty out time. We'll see what happens. Telecom still in front. The red ominous colour on the left of your picture. They will be bringing Cipollini forward. The bottles flying in the air. The crowds rise to the occasion. A memorable day in Irish sport.
Very important for the GAN team now that they can protect Boardman. They're not going to allow an avalanche of fellas through. That's very important for them, that Boardman can protect his lead. Boardman in the yellow, and he was just looking for Zabel. I think there was about 20 seconds between them starting, or maybe even a bit more, but Zabel did bring back, there was 24 seconds. Zabel got 4 seconds of that back in an intermediate bonification. So if he were to win the stage, he'd only be level with Boardman, and that won't be good enough for a change of a tyre. But it's a tremendous battle up front here, because this is the real race here now, where the teams are working for position, trying to get the protection for their sprinter, wondering what the form of the sprinter is. The US Postal team making a move on the right in the blue-clad attire, and the crowds are out in enormous numbers as they come down into the Walkinstown area of Dublin and swing right, another roundabout, covered with traffic every day of the week. Is there ever a minute when there's not a traffic jam there? But today it's a jam of 189 superb bike riders.
Telecom in the pink. Festina drifting back in the red. The pace, as you can see, has dropped noticeably. The Dutch riders there loitering too. And Gann coming through to protect, as Jimmy said, the man in the yellow jersey. He's got to finish in the main bunch. 115 is for Chiari, but closer to the front is his teammate Cipollini. Somewhere there in the middle, in the red, is the great sprinter. Look at that, a swarm of bees. Wonderful, wonderful sight. All working for their leaders, by the way. Difficult to pick out the leader in this situation, but you'll see the leaders.
There'll be some speed around the finish park when they reach there. It's going to be a fantastic finish, this. And it's so much pride at stake, apart from the money and apart from the points. But there's so much pride because these sprinters have a competition within a they're almost like front rows in rugby. It's how you can impose your will upon somebody. Now Cipollini has put himself up on a podium, and all those guys are there to knock him today. Can they do it? This Telecom team are well positioned for it, but there's a lot of other good riders there. Festina making an effort. The Rabobank team are well positioned as well. There's 4 or 5 of them there.
And as you said, the US Postal team are back there too, coming into shot now and again. Okay, plan A. On the left of your picture, a little attack, well, almost petered out perhaps before it started, but somebody was thinking about moving. Coming down to decision time now. Got to get into a good position before they hit the park, Jimmy.
Kingsbridge will be coming up shortly. And these people who live in these houses really have the superb free grandstand view. But of course it's free watching anyway. It must be the best sports event in the world that you can see for nothing. And what they do a lot in France is they go and they have their glass of wine, they come out and they see it whizzing by, and then they go back in and they watch the rest of it and talk about it and wait for Godot.
Well, there'll be a lot of glasses of the black stuff, I assume, and I wouldn't be surprised to see many of them in the hands of the spectators. The local hostelries around the Phoenix Park will be having a boom day.
speed is up, the power is there, and a stage win beckons for some lucky and talented rider.
But what a great day it was for Van Hefte and Durand. They'll remember that forever. Stage 1, the Tour of Ireland 1998. Didn't we do well?
Rabobank are having a decent shove at this. Robbie McEwen, very prominent there. Eric Decker as well. Telecom has gone back a little bit.
Seiko have gone into the front, Jimmy.
Yeah. And that, of course, as we don't need to remind you again, is the team of Cipollini. Interesting, Telecom have gone back. They've gone back a bit, Telecom. Gan have a lone man at the front, and they are protecting, of course, the yellow jersey of Chris Boardman. He's just got off the front, but I don't think it can be construed as a real attack here from the...
Eddie Senior it is. What his plan is, I'm not quite sure. But Boardman's rider has gone ahead.
And this, Senior, the fellow who's gone ahead, has already 23 pro wins behind him, so it's not outside the bounds of possibility that he could sneak one. So when he went off the front there, it didn't look as though it was a jump attack. It looks as though he just rode off the front almost nonchalantly.
Kilmainham down the hill, getting closer to the Phoenix Park.
10 kilometres to the actual finish. Obviously not 10 kilometres to Dublin.
So Eddie Senior has decided to go on his own. Senior, a member, as we said, of Chris Boardman's GAM team. O'Grady is there too. He'll be lending support to Boardman to bring him back up, as will Poli and Vasseur. But Senior in front, and the peloton well in view of the break by the GAN rider.
At Kingsbridge, Euston Station, the main railway station for trains to the south of Ireland, Cork, Limerick, Waterford. At Kingsbridge Station, Euston Station, and Eddie Senior from the GAN team, that's the team of the race leader, the yellow jersey. Chris Boardman is away in front. He just jumped on the outskirts of Dublin, not so much a jump as rode away from them. And now they've got to go in pursuit, but undoubtedly they'll pick him back. And look at the assembly of the four Reds. That must be the Seiko Cannondale team. The TVM team are up there as well. That's for Cipollini and Blaile Evans. And where have Telecom gone, or how is Zabel feeling, and why have they gone to the front, tactically gone back in the race? Interesting.
Cross the Liffey, down the Keys. And all of Dublin, it seems, is in Parkgate Street. Some famous pubs there too. Ryan's at Parkgate Street. They'll be doing a good business. Now, the entrance into the Phoenix Park, one of the largest parks in Europe, and the race is truly on now. 3.5 miles left in this stage 1 of the Tour de France in Dublin.
Here they are. They're now in the Phoenix Park. Scene of many great events in the past, and no greater one in sport than this one today. Eddie Senior from the GAN team trying to go away. They have about 9 Ks to go, just over 5 miles left in the race.
Well, now they've slowed down. Tactics again. Senior was away, and a crash already. Unfortunately, that could be one of the Seiko. It is a Seiko rider. Let's hope it's not Cipollini.
Looks like Cipollini.
3 or 4 Seiko riders down. That is most unfortunate. But meanwhile, back with the race, if we can get back. Cipollini rides a white bike. I'm not sure if he's there.
Looks like big trouble for Seiko, big trouble for Cipollini.
That's Cipollini, I think. Can't be sure. Calcaterra and Mussolini. And he's not happy. What happened? We don't know. Let's look again.
Just a touch of wheels.
I think it was one of his own teammates he brushed against. That is Cipollini on the right, picking up the debris, the race in bits, the stage in bits. Given a spare bike, but no sprint win for him today.
Well, it's the end of the road for this day for the Seiko team. Don't know how he's feeling here, Mario Cipollini.
Tragedy for the Italian, but the race goes on.
And here they are all together in the Phoenix Park. The Seiko team having that disaster for them, in sports terms, a disaster. There's no such a thing as a certainty. Not that he was actually a certainty to win the stage, but he was a certainty to be in the bunch gallop at the end. And now it's really anybody's stage.
Well, that really was a tragedy for Mario Cipollini and his team. Probably one of their own members who bumped into him.
Yellow jersey, well placed, Chris Boardman. 1 lap to do in the Phoenix Park. That's 7 Ks. And they're all together, all of those who are left in contention.
With the GAN riders to the front. So, cat and mouse game, Boardman well placed. Seiko riders there too.
20 seconds, remember, is the bonus here for the win in the park on this stage 1 of the tour. Chris Boardman starting off the day 4 seconds better off than Alano. And here they are behind the Seiko boys. Big shame that should happen for them. They rode superbly all day as a team for this man Cipollini, but down they came. But I don't think it was as disastrous as it may have looked initially, and hopefully there are no serious injuries, certainly not to that lot over there, but there's still a long way to go, of course, in Tour de France, and during the coming weeks, watch out for that name, Mario Cipollini, in 1-1-1. Now, I mentioned earlier on, where did Telecom go? They were up towards the front, making selections, making their choices, and then they seem to slip right back in the peloton. But just look at them now. The right-hand side of the road, inside right, left side of the road, and to centre as we watch Seiko go through. Sad sight.
Yes, a sad sight indeed as they cross the finishing line for the first time. The next time will determine who has won this stage 1 here in Dublin. But tragedy, as Jimmy said, in sporting parlance for the Seiko team and indeed for all the riders involved in that crash. Hopefully nobody's seriously hurt. It's looking like those who were down are all up, and that's what we hope is the result of that prang. No bump wagon required, we trust. But anyway, the race goes on. Seiko, as ever, trying to get back into it, but of course it's too late.
There it is, the Phoenix Park in Dublin, the largest in Europe. And we're in the closing stages of stage 1. No Cipollini to contest the sprint.
Now, who's away?
Speed is really up, tremendously up. It's going to be very close. This could be anybody's. Zabel is making a move on the right with a little portion of the Telecom team. 5 kilometers to go. Chiandri well placed. Look at them in the file, the way they're filed out with a tremendous speed. How can they get up there? That's the thing now. Who can make the moves that matter?
And the thing is not to make you move too early. Over the shoulder, you can see he's looking all the time. So too is he. Where is the attack going to come from? Be very careful. Don't go too early. Don't leave it too late.
Moncassin is there as well. Blair Evans is around there too.
No sign of the yellow jersey, by the way. Now, again, he's concerned about what's going to happen from behind. Nobody wants to go forward. They're waiting for the sprinters.
The old Grand Prix motor racing circuit coming down towards the Zoological Gardens. This is the famous old course. Is it the oldest one in the world, perhaps? In the Phoenix Park. But from Grand Prix, motorized Grand Prix to what truly is the Grand Prix on two wheels. These fellows here without motors. But the motors are in their breastbone. Marvellous hearts they have. Now who's going to make the attack? TVM are looking a little bit as if they might have something in hand. Telecom trying to make a move to get Zabel up.
3.5 kilometres left, Jimmy. So Cipollini out of contention as the picture showed earlier. And who's going to take this stage now? The yellow jersey, I think, is back intact with the front riders. And the Phoenix Park never looking better.
Mappy have Tom Steels, of course, to watch out for. They're number 36, he's there. And Mappy are making a lead out just right-hand side of the road. That's for Tom Steels. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. He's back 5 riders, so he's been nicely shielded. He could snick it as well. Boardman is there, nice position, well protected. Make no mistakes, keep the yellow jersey.
And Zabel in the green in the middle of your picture. He too is poised. One of the great sprinters in professional cycling. Now, is that Chiandri on the left of our picture? Boardman tucked in, Telecom in pink, loitering too. The back road round by the Zoological Gardens. They'll take a right-hander at the headquarters of the Garda Síochána and back onto the main drag again and back up to Áras an Uachtaráin and the winning line.
Riding into the wind, TVM, a prominent team. They have Blair Evans. 2 Ks to go. Terrific speed. How many truly fancy their chances now? It could be any one of half a dozen. But they don't have to worry about Cipollini today. Maybe they will as the tour unfolds, but not this day.
Moncassin is there too, and I think Boardman is back there as well. Still the heads over the shoulders.
Mappy looking to get Stales up. Asavorda. Painted on the park is Phoenix Park. Gann doing very well, protecting the leader, and doing so well.
The Telecom rider in second place. Now the attack coming from the other side. Difficult to call this one.
DVM are well positioned with Blair Evans, and Moncassin is well positioned for Gann. Zabel is not outside it yet. There's 1 K to go. The movement is going to be terrific. It's a lead out for Telecom.
It sure is.
Zabel is the man to watch. Zabel is back there, 4 or 5 places. The man to watch. TVM trying to lead out Blair Evans.
An attack on the left of your picture as well. So Poti are there as well. And there's a bit of zigzagging. That's illegal in the last 200 metres. You're not meant to change your line.
Anybody's.
Bunch finish, almost impossible to call.
Watch Telecom, the pink. Blair Evans is well positioned, 2 for TVM.
And the Dutch driver lifts his foot out of the pedal, lost the pedal. And the US Postal coming through. The Seiko rider coming as well. Zabel and Steels I think took it, can't be sure. Almost impossible to call it, but I think that man there, Tom Steels, has taken the stage. The man who threw his water can at a sprint finish of the Tour last year.
Terrific stuff indeed. After all of that, all the huffing and the puffing and the climbing and the sprinting and the speed tests, and indeed the crash finally in the Phoenix Park, and a tremendous finish as Telecom tried to get Zabel through. And a look at the finish again. Zabel going through. Tom Stales right on Zabel's wheel. Zabel with the German jersey on him. Look at Stales. Terrific finish by him. Just getting, first of all, the wheel, then getting the bike, and then getting the victory.
Well, stunning pictures. And look at the expressions of pain and then absolute elation as Tom Steels of the Mappé team takes stage 1 of the Tour de France into the Phoenix Park in Dublin, and boy is he pumping.
Tremendous finish, as we would have expected. A bunch finish in the Phoenix Park. And for a while it looked as though Zabel was going to get the victory, but perfectly timed finish by Tom Stales. An acknowledged sprinter is Tom Stales, and a terrific win for him. A full bike, well, bar a tubular for Stales.
Racing parlance, probably a length. And what drama, particularly for the Seiko team as they enter the Phoenix Park. All the great plans for the last year in bits as they came up the first hill in the Phoenix Park. The champion was down. The fastest man in the world bit the dust. Still they come in glory. Always game to the end. The Seiko team in bits and pieces, bruised and bleeding, but back on the road and determined to finish.
Our policy is to provide the best insurance cover and the best value for money. So when it comes to insuring your house, your car, and even your bike, we proudly wear the yellow jersey. Church and General, official insurer to the Tour de France in Ireland.
What sort of person are you in the morning? One that's easily irritated? Well now, new Nivea for Men Aftershave Balm soothes and moisturizes irritated skin after every shave, so you can start the morning afresh. New Nivea for Men Aftershave Balm, for men who dare to care.
For people on the move, Tipperary Active with the fast sports cap. Easy open, easy close. Pure and natural Tipperary Active, the natural choice.
Ireland's change to the single currency, the euro, is taking shape. On the 1st of January 1999, the euro will come into being. 3 years later, on the 1st of January 2002, the euro will come into our pockets. Further information will be made available by the Euro Changeover Board of Ireland, helping you make the change.
Potato waffles, they're waffly versatile. They go with cheese, chili, chicken, burgers, fish fingers, fish fingers, eggs, ham, egg salad, bacon, lamb chop.
They're real potato waffles.
Potato waffles, they're waffly versatile.
Did you know curling tongs and hair dryers can actually be good for your hair? Because organics contains advanced protective agents which are heat activated to actually improve the condition of your hair. So blow drying can make it look and feel healthy and beautiful from root to tip. Organics. Where there's heat, there's beautiful hair.
The polyunsaturates in flora actually help lower cholesterol. Making it good news for my body. Your body for everybody.
I should have gone a long time ago. I'm sick of being treated badly. Oh, it was great. So attentive. made me feel special, you know? It was always a chore, but today, for the first time, it was a real pleasure.
If you're not getting the service you'd like,
Morning, gorgeous. One of the young lads even put the shopping in the boot.
you're not shopping at Super Value.
Look at that. Lovely fella.
Super Value, shopping as it should be.
For one night only. The Bee Gees at the RDS on August 29th. Tickets from Ticketmaster at HMV and usual outlets. For one night only. The Bee Gees, like you've always wanted to see them. It's a night fever, not to be missed.
Boomer's original cider, all in its own good time.
And the stage result is confirmed. Steele's the winner, the Belgian, from Zavel, the German, and Robbie McEwen got up to get third place. Monkazan had to be satisfied with sixth. Tom Steele's the winner, a man who won 2 stages in this year's Paris-Nice and making it his 29th career win as a professional. Here is the moment that every rider would wish for, to win a stage in Tour de France. It's a select group, a very select group of men who can stand on the top step of the podium. And Tom Steele is the man who does it. He's 26 years old. And the Belgian champion jersey on his shoulders. A proud day for him from the Mappy Bricoby team. It's his second Tour de France. He did not finish in 1997, but he certainly started well in 1998. Chris Boardman comes on stage. Prologue winner yesterday. On his shoulders, the yellow jersey. And Chris Boardman is acknowledged in the Phoenix Park. A prologue, the yellow jersey, and that's Bernard Hinault gesturing on the right-hand side of the stage. A man who knows what it is to win, both stage and overall. The great Bernard Hinault. Tom Steele's 26-year-old Belgian, the stage winner and the green jersey winner. A day to remember, no matter how the rest of the tour pans out for him. And that is the polka dot, the Mountains jersey, on the strength of the Wicklow Gap. So the general classification at the end of day 2, Chris Boardman ahead by the same as he was yesterday, 4 seconds from Olano. Jalabert as he was at 5 seconds are the top 3.
Looks like it was difficult out there with the wind. How did you find it?
Very, very, very nervous day. It's always like that for the tour, and today it just went our way, really. I mean, it was nervous, but kept well placed. Going over Wicklow Gap with all the people was fantastic. And today, again, a real gift in this circuit was dry, for starters, and it was a perfect headwind, perfect tailwind, which meant in the finish, as long as you made the last kilometre and a half, it was going to stay together.
And no sign of Cipollini towards the end. He obviously had his own problems. Were you aware of them?
No, I didn't know he'd gone down. I mean, I saw the big crash, and luckily I wasn't in it. But that's the tour, I'm afraid. I mean, there's 200 guys with perfectly fresh legs and 20 places, and obviously they can't all fit, and something's got to give.
In the beginning, nobody actually wanted to take hand of the race, so we decided from Casino that we wanted to try to attack, and Jacky Duran, he attacked, and they went away with the group. The sprinters team was riding behind normally, and yeah, it was a normally bunched sprint, so it was a
big crash on the way in here. Did you see that? Did you get it?
Yeah, it was just in front of me. I saw some guys going down, but yeah, that's also normally the first stages in Tour de France, and it wasn't really bad out there today. The roads wasn't too narrow and too bad, and there was a lot of people, and yeah, it's a nice feeling.
Tony Rominger, what did you think of the first stage proper of the Tour de France here in Dublin and Wicklow?
It was a very nice stage, but I seemed not so nervous like normally, because I think it's also thanks to the good roads we had over here. There was large roads and they had space to go to pass everybody, and that's always a good thing in the beginning of the Tour de France to have good roads.
Normally the first 3 stages are run around a capital, much bigger than Dublin, where you have loads of roundabouts and loads of these speed ramps. Today the peloton went on an incredibly smooth pace. There was no crashes whatsoever along the route. There was only 1 or 2 roundabouts on the way. The one roundabout there was here in the Finney's Park was taken out of it last night, just to kind of make sure there's going to be no crashes here because of roundabouts or these speed ramps. And unfortunately it happened on a dead straight line on probably the widest part of the whole circuit.
I think Steels tomorrow he will be the man to beat again. And now I didn't really look at exactly how far away they are, but when you win tomorrow again, he will take the jersey, Steels.
Tomorrow's finish will suit better, I think, Isabel, and with the bonuses, I think it'll be very difficult for Chris to hold his jersey, but best of luck to him.
Yeah, that's about it then from day 2 of the Tour. Tom Steele's the Belgian champion, today's stage winner. Chris Boardman, though, wears yellow for tomorrow's second stage from Enniscorthy to Cork. That gets underway just after 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, taking the riders through New Ross, on to Waterford, through Piltown, and then what a huge welcome awaits them in Carrick-on-Shore, home of the great Sean Kelly, and I've no doubt Sean will take a great reception as he takes the salute as it passes through Sean Kelly Square. Then from Carrick they head on to Dungarvan, Youghal, Middleton and into Cork for the finish in Cork City. It promises great excitement and you can watch it live here on Network 2 beginning at 12:30. Highlights then tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Next tonight, 4 captures the excitement in Dublin from the opening stage of the Tour de France. If you're channel hopping several times a year or you're hopping to the other side of the globe, one travel insurance is all you need. It's called Worldwide Annual Multi-Trip Travel Insurance. Pay before August the 1st and the whole family can get a whole year's cover for as little as £99, however many times you travel. And it couldn't be easier to arrange. Just call 0345 668899 for your free brochure on how you could save money on your travel insurance however often you go abroad a year. So ring this number now, 0345 668899.
It is a special reward to see a sad face turn into a smiling one. That's my job and it's wonderful. You see, over 12 million children die each year from hunger-related illness and disease. I work with children who face that reality every day. 2 years ago, Coco was malnourished and unable to go to school. But as you can see, things have changed. Her health is very good and her village has clean water. There is hope in this place because child sponsors care.
For just £14 a month, you can sponsor a child like Coco. Call World Vision now on 0800 50 10 10 for a child sponsorship information pack. That's 0800 50 10 10. We're waiting to take your call.
I want to be on MTV. Want beer that's lively bright. So for a start, we'll order Harp on Friday every night. Harp sparkles like a fist of stars. It's bubbles in the glass. Harp sparkles gold. Explodes with cold.
It's in another class. I want the world to smile to me. I want the fun to start. Want lively beer. We're here, it's here. We want a pint of park. Polish off a sparkler.
Hop lager.
Bathe in a bathroom like this? Soap scum and growing mold. No way! But now there's a powerful cleaner that tackles both. New Jif cream with bleach. The bleach activates the cream, making lighter work of the most difficult dirt. Brilliant! Now available with Jif Classic and Lemon. That's the power of Jif.
And now, I suggest you grab a martini citron and tonic while we watch some more telly.
Wednesday night is fraught with conspiracy theory and speculation. A new film from Black Box covers the tragedy of Flight TWA 800, the biggest crash investigation in history that shook the credibility of the US Navy and the FBI.
The plane exploded. The plane appeared to explode in midair.
And a new series of Deals on Wheels tells the truth about the used car market. Wednesday from 8:30 on 4.
On 4, it's the first stage of the Tour de France.
Sport on 4 with Volkswagen's Passat. It's an obsession.
Swings in to the home straight now. He is going to have to sprint all of the way. Olano is home with a time of 6 minutes and 16 seconds. Boardman just gone through 6 minutes. He's got to be the best time. He's got to keep it going out to the line. And there are still others to follow. He must not ease up now. Boardman pushes all the way to the line. His head is up, his head is down. The time is the best. 6:12.36. Boardman has not let his fans down.
I've never dedicated a win before, but this one is for my wife, without whom I wouldn't be here.
And for Chris Boardman, it also means his third prologue yellow jersey, equaling the feats of the legendary Belgian Eddy Merckx and the Frenchman Thierry Marie. Overall, he leads Spanish favourite Abraham Olano by 4 seconds, while Jalabert, Julich, Moreau and defending champion Jan Ullrich, they are all 5 seconds back. Further down, Alex Zula lies 7th, Richard Berenc 14th, while Boardman will be very worried about the top sprinter Mario Cipollini today after he finished only 13 seconds slower in the prologue and will now look to take the overall race lead by chasing the time bonuses. And we're back in O'Connell Street, the scene of Chris Boardman's victory yesterday now for the second full day of racing here in Ireland. And certainly Chris will be out to defend his yellow jersey, won't he? In the Wicklow Mountains today. But first of all, let's go to Gary Imlach, who joined in last night's celebrations.
6 minutes 12 seconds wasn't only the winning time in Dublin yesterday, it was opening time.
It's tremendous though. Just for me, Ulrich 4 seconds behind. He was giving it his all. But Boardman, he blew him all away.
Vive la Boardman!
Chris Boardman, cheers Chris. All the best.
Knocked the socks off him, didn't he? Absolutely murdered him. Let's hope he makes it to Paris. Here's to Chris, one of our own.
Of course, strictly speaking, the Irish had no national claim on this win, but on a Saturday night in Dublin, there's no problem that can't be solved by the application of stout logic.
Well, we know he's from Liverpool, and we know Liverpool is the capital of Ireland, so it's a home win.
Well, the Wirral's not quite Liverpool, but as the evening wore on, people were losing their grip on more than geography.
Stan did the job today for England. Merseyside as well.
Is that Sam Boardman or Chris Boardman?
Chris Boardman. Sorry. Chris Boardman did it for St. Helens and Liverpool and England.
The source of all the celebration had been in bed by 10:30 himself, the better to keep a clear perspective on the events of the night before. You seemed especially satisfied with that win yesterday. What's the perspective on it the morning after?
Yeah, it was a tremendous relief, and now I know how it works these days with a few hours of real relief, probably akin to being, to taking morphine, which I've had in hospital once or twice, just a sense of complete relaxation for a while there. And then you wake up this morning and it's windy and it's going to rain and it's just getting on with the job. But obviously it makes it a little bit better.
So what is the strategy? Expend a lot of energy trying to keep it, or just let nature take its course?
No, when you have 30 up to 36, 38 seconds a day on time bonuses, and in 5Ks, 4-second lead, over the sprinters around about 15 seconds. So they only have to take either a win or a couple of time bonuses and it's changes hands. So it's in the lap of the gods, or to be more precise, in the lap of the sprinters now.
Now, a man doesn't need a good reason to dedicate a stage win to his wife, and that was a very nice gesture yesterday towards Sally. But was there any special reason for it?
Yeah.
Is that a reason you'd like to elaborate on?
No.
Okay. Have a good stage.
Thanks, mate.
Well, today for all of the 189 riders, it's get to know you time, as the official start was made this morning at 11:15. The route on a windy and dank day is 180 kilometres with the climb of the Col de Wicklow Gap, the high spot. A difficult day indeed for Chris Bourman, who wants to try now and defend his yellow jersey, and his GAN team, well, they're going to do their best to help him. At the first sprint though, of course it was the sprinters. Jan Zerada winning at Bray, getting a 6-second time bonus, ahead of Eric Zabel of the Deutsche Telekom team. He gets 4 seconds, and Frederic Moncassin, he takes 2 for the GAN squad.
Well, racing conditions today, very tough indeed. Although it will be cloudy at the start, there's a possibility of the sun breaking through in the latter part of the afternoon. But more important for these riders, gusts of 50 kilometres an hour, which could be from the front of the race and really spreading the riders all over the road. The high temperature, 17 degrees Celsius in the latter part of the afternoon.
So the race is now well and truly on the way, and who will wear the next yellow jersey, we'll find out later. But the morale of the Festina team today, the team led by Richard Virenque and Alex Zula, is at a very low ebb, following the arrest in France of a team masseur who was found to be carrying an amount of steroids in his car. Well, the team claim they know nothing about it, and they are certainly not receiving any of the products from him. But he has also pointed a finger of suspicion to some of the team riders. It's certainly leaving a nasty taste, but for the moment, the tour organisation say they will take no action. They prefer French justice to take its course. Well, this story now set to continue when the race returns to France on Monday night. And the organisation do confirm that if anything at all is linked to riders of the Tour de France, they will take the strongest of action. And that, of course, could mean disqualification for some of the riders. As the riders are heading up now towards the Wicklow Gap, the gap of the 7 riders who broke away about 30 minutes ago is beginning to come down. First of all, the names. Jen Voigt of Chris Bourman's GAN team is the best placed rider in this breakaway, just 18 seconds off the yellow jersey. It could be a good team tactic here by GAN. Paul Van Heeft of the Lotto team, Americo Capaldi of Polti, Francisco Benitez of Vitalico, and Jose de los Angeles of Kelme, Jacky Duran of Casino, and Stefano Zanini of Mappe. That's the constitute of the breakaway, Paul, but it's come down. It was over 3 minutes. It's now inside that gap.
Well, the reason it's come down so rapidly is because of all the work that's being done by the Seiko Cannondale team behind, because they obviously want to bring it back together. Mario Cipollini started the day 13 seconds behind Chris Bourman in the overall standings. What he wants to do today is to bring it all back together, which is why the gap has dropped down so dramatically.
Well, it's a good move, I think, in favour of Chris at the moment. It's pulling a lot of strength out of Seiko. The glimpse we've had of the field, and here we are, is the red jersey of Seiko now spearheaded here to try and get this race back together again. Because, of course, it is a perfect finish, isn't it, in Phoenix Park for Mario Cipollini?
Absolutely magnificent finish for any sprinter, really. A long straight line over the last 1.5 kilometres. You can see the banner way off in the distance, and I would certainly say, driving up here this morning, that it was a Mario Cipollini finish.
Here's the crowd now. They've waited a long time because the roads here in Ireland started to close at 7 o'clock this morning, and we're now heading up to almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So they've had a long wait to see the tour, but they've turned out in great numbers, as they did, of course, for the prologue yesterday.
They certainly did. You can see just how difficult it is when you go up towards the summit of this climb, the Col de Wicklow Gap, as they're calling it here. in the organisation of the Tour de France at the moment, and Jens Voigt wearing number 89, just sitting on the back there. This is the position he took up for most of the Pro Tour, the new Tour of Britain that took part in May earlier this season. He was always looking in great difficulty on the climbs. He looks as if he's struggling, but he never gets dropped at all, looking a lot leaner and fitter than he was 1 or 2 years ago when he was an amateur, and it is a real good sign, I think, to see that Roger Leger has decided to include him in the GAN team.
Well, there they are, the happy supporters of the Tour de France on Irish roads. We look right into the distance now. You can see the climb of Wicklow Gap. This is the most beautiful part of the mountains just outside of Dublin. Sally Gap is not very far away from here either, and the hotbed of many of the touring cyclists in the area for their Sunday club runs. Well, today they've moved to one side to see the Tour de France make its way up the mountain. 1:25 the gap now, as the pace continues, but the gap is holding at the minute. You can see the cars in the distance. Well, that's the caravan behind the main field, and they aren't that far behind, are they? So they're going to see these riders. The unfortunate thing about a race as big as the Tour de France, right above these riders are 3 helicopters, and it doesn't take the peloton long to work out exactly where the leaders are, because they can see the aircraft above them. 1 kilometre now to the top of the climb of the Wicklow Gap, and they've got themselves sorted out in this breakaway again, and they're trying to settle back in. Then it says the rider just off our screen. This is Mirko Crepaldi of the Balti team. Paul Van Hayt, who's just off the left of our picture there, is doing an awful lot of work here, very active indeed. Here he comes. I think he fancies his chances of a polka dot jersey tonight down in Phoenix Park.
First man to go over the top here will get maximum points in this King of the Mountains. There's no other King of the Mountains points to be awarded today, so it will be a very nice chance for somebody in this group of 7 riders to get the polka dot jersey just for at least one day.
The interesting thing is, Paul, after the Col de Wicklow Gap today up near Dublin, and of course the home area of Stephen Roach, the 1987 winner, tomorrow we're off to the Col de Carrick, which is the home of Sean Kelly, and the climb which Sean Kelly must have ridden hundreds of times during his sparkling career as a professional. Jose de Los Angeles of the Kelme squad, and this is Jacky Duran, dressed like the pirate today with his headband. And there's been a large crowd on this climb today. Unfortunately, they're going to have to stay up there because the race will continue down towards Phoenix Park, and they won't be able to get back down in time for the finish. But I'm quite sure they've got the radios and portable TV sets. You can see by the British Union flag there just how strong this wind is, and it really is blowing. And Sean Kelly did say at the start this morning that the riders could be caught out today, he said, because it will be really windy up there, and he was right.
It certainly was. What could be more important, though, is in the main field behind when they come off this mountain. With that kind of a wheel, it could cause a split. The attack now has already come. Jens Voigt has been sitting at the back of this group for an awful long time. He's decided to go out of the front, and in fact, he's caught the referees by surprise.
Well, good for him, because it could be the polka dot jersey. It will be for the man that wins the sprint here. Voigt is sat on, which is his right, with the leader on his team, but now he's gone and he's being challenged, and it could be Zanini who's going to go as well. Zanini's come through on the inside. World Cup leader this year. He lost that after he crashed in the forest of Arlenberg in the Paris-Roubaix race. Well, he's going to be very surprised. He looks over, he waits at the rest, but Zanini is the king of the mountains for the moment. Zanini was the winner. Jens Voigt got the second place and 7 points, and Benitez gets the 5 points in third place. That's the order over the top of the Col de Wicklow Gap, and now we're setting fair for the finish. We'll take a break.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Mario Cipollini, guardate questo Tour de France sul Channel 4.
Last week we had a man out wide wandering around without a car. It's completely pointless. He needs to get across here to the Vauxhall dealer. Then he needs to ask about 0% finance. Read this small print, pay the deposit, then off he goes. Round the roundabout, mind the pedestrians, park, turn left, morning Mrs. Jones, morning Graham, nice tracksuit, thank you, and parks his new Vauxhall outside the house. Put the kettle on, my petrol. 0% finance? Do I like that?
Everyone knows the old rules of photography.
That's right, film direct sunlight.
But Kodak Gold Ultra breaks them all.
Using the same film in here.
Kodak Gold Ultra performs brilliantly in almost all conditions. If this film isn't in your camera, imagine the pictures you'd miss. Kodak Gold Ultra. Film for all conditions.
Half the price, twice the fun, 50% cheaper than 0891. Gay Cruise, 0894, 87, 87, 87.
Swap phone numbers with singles. Call 0891 040404.
She's the kind of girl you meet while at 30,000 feet. She's a winner, 'cause no matter what takes place, there's a smile on her face. She's no quitter, she's a lady. Whoa, she's a lady.
Have you had your Weetabix?
Hi, I'm Bobby Jewett. You're watching the Tour de France on Channel 4.
For the lazy journalist, Ireland is an all-you-can-eat bar buffet of cultural cliches, whereas of course France is more of a four-course meal with wine. It's dangerously easy to slip into, and given that they're two of the most stereotyped nations on the planet, perhaps it's apt that France and Ireland should enjoy a special relationship. In fact, this year is the 200th anniversary of the last time the French were over here in such force, 1798, when they nipped over to give the Irish a hand against the English. And ever since, the two countries have maintained a vigorous policy of cultural exchange.
Gwen?
Et comment va?
Gwen?
Gin.
Gwen?
For most of the past 200 years, it must be said, the French have had the better of the bargain. Not only have they had the guance, but in the days before strong-legged young Irishmen were forced to do national service in touring productions of Riverdance, they took Ireland's best cyclists too. It's largely due to the exploits of Sean Kelly and Stephen Roach in the Tour that the French have finally reversed the one-way traffic. Although on the subject of traffic, when the Garde Républicaine arrived in Ireland to escort the race as usual, the Garda arrived to escort them just to be on the safe side. How's your French?
Deeper.
Very good. Very good. Go on then, give us some. Parlez-vous anglais?
No.
How do you communicate then? With the exception of the odd publicity vehicle that's attracted the wrong kind of publicity by forgetting to drive on the left, the invasion's gone pretty smoothly, with the French not only taking Dublin Castle this time, but renaming it as well. In the face of the onslaught, the host broadcaster fell back on what it knew best, and recast the whole event as the Eurovision bike contest.
Now we've got two more cyclists for you to meet, Bjorn Rees from Denmark and Mario Cipollini from Italy. Can you give them a round of applause?
The real Irish flavour will be evident out on the roads, although the roads themselves have lost some of their intrinsic Irishness with the eradication of thousands of historic potholes.
Everything we're doing is Tour de France, all Tour de France. All the money spent here and with us here, Tour de France.
Ironically, the two people least able to enjoy the festivities surrounding the race are the men it's here to honour. So far, Kelly and Roach are averaging about 20 interviews a day.
Well, I'm not surprised that Kelly and Roach are in demand because they really were two of the greatest cyclists ever, and thanks, Gary. Well, just to bring you up to date, we watch here Eddie Seigneur trying to go clear. Another Gan rider. He's got himself a little gap because that break of 7 all swept up, but they survived to take out the spins at Blessington at 139 kilometres, where Jacky Duran, Paul Van Hayt and Zanini, it was the order over the line. Then a breakaway from Duran and Van Hayt, that was swept up, and so far the field has been together until just now, and this is the former champion of France trying to go clear as we arrive at 10 kilometres to go.
In 1 kilometre they'll go into the park, Phoenix Park, just on the outskirts of Dublin, and that is really when this pace is going to hot up. Eddie Seigneur has tried to sneak off the front here, but at this speed, we're looking at 60 kilometres an hour. Nobody is going to manage, I don't think, to ride away to victory alone, because behind all of the top teams are going to start to organise the lead out for their sprinters.
Well, what we have noticed is Chris Boardman has been holding his position near the head of this bunch all day and looks to have had a great day. The sad thing is, it'll be a sprinters finale now, and any one of about 40 riders who win today could steal that leader's yellow jersey. Little narrow entrance, but the race is going so fast. They're in a long, thin line at the back of this field today as they enter Phoenix Park. And the riders now swinging around at the back of the circuit. And Casino's had such a wonderful season. They've risen from a rather obscure team right up to world number 2 this year by picking up the wins in a lot of smaller races around the world. And it wouldn't surprise me if they continue that sort of form in the Tour de France. But there's been a crash. Somebody has hit the central reservation there. I said that the park had its dangers, and there's a central reservation soon after they enter, and it looks to me, Paul, oh dear me, they've had a tremendous crash here, and this is one of the Seiko riders on the floor.
Well, it's not Mario Cipollini because he was wearing a white helmet, but there on the far side is a white helmeted Seiko rider, so that could well be that Cipollini has gone down. That is quite remarkable.
Well, this has actually caught out one or two of the Seiko boys here because they were obviously moving up on the outside. Well, Cipollini has crashed, believe it or not, exactly 1 year to the day when he abandoned the Tour de France last year. And in fact, it was the riders' fault themselves that caused this crash. They can't blame anybody except themselves. You saw the touch of wheels that the Seiko team are moving forward to put the riders onto the attack. Well, they have to finish the stage to continue. Cipollini is well aware of that. Any hopes he had of winning is certainly out today. But although his jersey there ripped a little bit, it looks as though he is going to continue on and look to fight at least another day. Well, 2 kilometres left to go. Inside 2,000 metres from the finish now, and a lot of riders believing here they have a real shot at gold.
That'll change a lot of tactics because many of the riders and sprinters would have been expecting the lead out over the next lap to have been done by the red jerseys of the Seiko Cannondale team, because they were the men who really know how to lead a sprint out, to take control of a big field like this in the last 10 kilometres.
Everybody in with a chance now. Chris Boardman is going to live in hope here. If he can retain his yellow jersey, it is in the lap of the sprinters now, because if the right sprinters win, they'll get the bonus that will take them over the fact of over Chris Boardman. Now Jerome Breileven's down. In fact, Jan there. Eric Zabel, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth down, Eric Zabel in that white jersey with the German stripes on it. A little bit boxed in on the right of the banners at the moment. His telecom team are looking for him, but he still has a lead out man there. In Bjarne Riis himself, we look ahead on now to the picture, and there's still no real sprinters yet as Tom Steels tries to get out of it as well. This is going to be a surprise result here. You get that feeling now. In fact, the sprinters lead out men have now had enough. They're sitting up, they're looking over the shoulder. Zabel here is putting himself hopefully in the best place. As also Robin McEwen is trying to get through, but the Rabobank rider there has pulled his foot clean off the pedal. Aldag is trying to come through on the right of our picture now. This is a real struggle for the line now. The new champion of France is trying to also come now. Jalabert is in there. As out of the pack comes Eric Zabel on the left. Zabel now is trying to deliver what will be his 15th win of the season. Steels has got it. Tom Steels come from nowhere, and so it's revenge for Tom Steels, thrown out of the Tour last year in a sprint. He comes back, and on the very first day possible, he takes the stage on the line. The champion of Belgium, he retained that title the other week, is the winner of the stage, and that was a great finish for Steels. With that black, yellow and red champions jersey of Belgium of Tom Steels, he knows the right wheel to follow. You can see the speed of Zabel, how he's taken everybody clear of the field, and then the man from Belgium knew he'd saved just enough as he moved out of the slipstream and then started to put in the finishing power burst. The rider just behind him looks like it might be Eric Decker, but certainly there's no doubt about the winner. It was Tom Steels ahead of Eric Zabel. There's the face of Zabel, the new champion, and that's the face of the man who just won the first road race stage of the Tour de France, Tom Steels. Well, here is the rather deflated Mario Cipollini arriving with his teammates around him. I'm sure we'll see him battle out a sprint very soon in this Tour de France, but this one, well, I think it was a Seiko rider who crashed and took down with him his team captain and a number of other riders. So Cipollini today loses time, and that might make it now very difficult for him to see the Maillot Jaune in this year's Tour. So two national champions grabbing the top spots. Tom Steele's finishing ahead of Eric Zabel, while the Australian Robin McEwen taking third. And Chris Boreman finished safely in the main pack today after riding a very good race. He was attentive and always near the front. And here he is now with Gary Imlach.
Chris, only a 4-second margin, but you seem to have preserved it.
Well, we don't know. I mean, with the big time bonuses, it just depends who's finished where. We've been finished now for about 45 seconds, so just wait and see. But well, that would be nice, another day in yellow. But it's already been great. Going over Wicklow Gap, all those people made an effort to get up the front, and it was great. So we'll wait and see, eh?
It's always a nervous first couple of days, and it looks like the big threat to your yellow jersey today, Mario Cipollini, was brought down by one of his own men coming into Phoenix Park.
Yeah, obviously the first few days in the Tour is obviously very nervous. People are prepared to die to win a stage, and obviously it's very, very closely packed. You've got nearly 200 people with fresh legs all trying to get into 20 places, and obviously that doesn't add up, so something's got to give somewhere.
So a chance to still be in yellow when the Tour heads back to France?
Well, wait and see, eh? Wait and see. The chances are going to diminish.